Hello and welcome into a YouTube live stream from the show that you hear when the fourth quarter buzzer sounds at the end of a sports game. Is Will's fifth quarter special. I'm your host, Will Farlow, and we have a lot of things to talk about here on the fifth quarter, this edition of the fifth quarter sports talk. And this is a rescheduled live stream from Saturday. And just thank you everyone for tuning in on this Tuesday afternoon, May 28th, 2019. We're almost into the summer months of June, July, and August. Those are my favorite months of the year as it is baseball season. So we have a lot to talk about with baseball especially. We're going to talk a little Chicago White Sox, a little Chicago Cubs, and especially this is our first time covering it on Will's fifth quarter special this year. It is the NCAA Division I college baseball tournament. And one of our teams that we talk about on this podcast a good deal, and we talked about it last week on episode 35. It's ISU's baseball team. So we're going to be talking about that, what they need to do to just succeed and get better. And just, in terms of what they need to do in this tournament to stay in this tournament. Whenever we talk about tournaments, you always see the teams that start off well and don't finish strong or the other way around. So we're going to talk about that, what they need to do, their opponents coming up. And we're talking a little Chicago Bears right now. Yes, it is the offseason, but they're just getting done with OTAs. Some of these players on defense especially are getting used to new defensive coordinator Chuck Pagano, who took over for Vic Fangio. The Bears have a big celebration coming up pretty soon, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, so how some of the rookies are fitting in, how I feel these players could really fit into the team this year. And we're going to talk to Chicago Bulls a little bit. The draft's not too far away in a few weeks, so I'm going to kind of give you guys my thoughts on what we could see. And we're going to have an episode coming up either later of this week or sometime next week. So pay attention to that. On episode 36, it will be covering the MLB draft for the Cubs and White Sox. So we're going to get started with NCAA baseball as the Illinois State Redbirds, and under a new head coach, Steve Holm, his first year at the helm of the Birds, they're headed into the NCAA tournament starting this weekend. And we're just going to take a look at some of the brackets. So the regionals will be going from this Friday to early next week. Then we have Super Regionals and the Men's College World Series. So that's it's different from the NCAA tourney, but it's still a similar bracket style setup. So we're just going to look at some of the matchups. Obviously, we're going to be looking at Oregon State. They're playing Cincinnati. Then Michigan plays Creighton. So I'm going to definitely be paying attention to the Oregon State Bears. They have a catcher that's going to be drafted next week in Adley Rustman. So there's going to be a lot of these players we see in the tournament that are going to get drafted to these Major League Baseball teams. So Illinois State's matchup, though, since we're on the subject of them, 34-win season under a new head coach, very, very good under his resume with his first year with the Redbirds. Probably a really good way to start with these players as well. A team that had pretty good pitching but just needed to improve it, get a little more consistent. They are playing a team not a state or two far away from them in the Indiana Hoosiers, who are 36-21 on the year. So whichever team wins that one, we will see. We'll play the winner in the regionals between the matchup of Louisville and UIC. So there's some pretty good matchups here. It looks like Stanford and Sacramento State. The one I'm interested in, though, definitely is ISU's, obviously. Clemson and Illinois, I think, is going to be a really good one, too, to watch, just focusing on teams in state. In Illinois, you have a team in Illinois that had some really good pitching last year, very strong hitting, led by Brent Spillane, who's now in the majors. He was drafted into Major League Baseball. He's in the minors and with the rookies and stuff right now, but this is a guy that was drafted for his strong hitting ability and other reasons. And we have Oklahoma State. I think UCLA puts up a good fight too, but the teams I'm paying attention to right now, the Redbirds and Oregon State in the regionals right here. These are some really good teams. And the question will be, can Illinois State continue to bring in that energy, competitive energy that they've used in the tournament that was present? They did lose to Indiana State and Dallas Baptist, but Just looking at Dallas Baptist even too, they are a second seed playing the Florida Gators. Dallas Baptist is a 41 win team. So right there, it kind of makes you pay attention to teams not just in this tournament, but also ones from Missouri Valley. You have Redbirds third seed. You have Indiana State at a second seed, 41-16 record. They won the MVC conference tournament on ISU's field last week. And then, like we just talked about, obviously Oregon State's a seed one. And I think what's most interesting to me about this baseball tournament is we're not just seeing these college players play against each other like you do in the NCAA March Madness in college basketball for the men's side, but you get to see these teams that their players will be playing against each other or together on a team because there's 40 rounds in Major League Baseball's draft. It's a lot compared to the 2 rounds in the NBA draft. So a lot of these players will be drafted. A pretty good majority of these players that are seniors and different years as well will get drafted. And I think to me that's interesting. We're going to see how these major league teams pay attention to this tournament. I think just because the draft for Major League Baseball begins on June 3rd, these teams are going to really be watching these matchups from this weekend on to Monday of next week because this can kind of determine which players they want to pick in certain rounds. Yes, you do visit with players and, you talk to certain players, but at the end of the day, it can change in an instant. You don't make that pick until in the first few rounds until Monday or then Tuesday and then Wednesday and so forth. So, we're going to keep you guys posted throughout this tournament and the, I guess, summer madness, I'm going to call it, of the NCAA Baseball Championship. We're going to keep you all posted on all things Redbirds, U of I. We'll talk about all that stuff. So we're going to continue to cover that here on Will's Fifth Quarter Special as it moves forward. Now, we have to talk about, just on the topic of baseball, there was a very interesting game over at Guaranteed Rate Field yesterday as the White Sox came home after being swept by the Minnesota Twins, splitting the series in a 4-game road series with the Houston Astros. So of those 8 games, they won 2. So they really gotta have to step things up a little bit. The pitching's really gotta bring itself together. Some of the hitting as well. I think Luis Garcia is a great hitter, but he really needs to get back to the consistency we've seen him have, not just this year in certain points, but in recent years as well. Ronaldo Lopez has been in a little bit of trouble pitching-wise right now as well. And they have pitching injuries, so that's kind of something the team's dealing with right now. But if you ask me, I would like to see the White Sox going out there and looking at the Dallas Keuchel or getting a trade for Gio Gonzalez, who's in the minors, just a veteran. They talked about it not too long ago in the Chicago sports radio stuff about how they want the Sox to eventually get a veteran pitcher like the Houston Astros did when they got in Justin Verlander. But the question will be who that is. We don't know that for sure. But the game yesterday was suspended. We had rain delays will come and go. That's kind of the thing with baseball. And the rain was just really coming down in Illinois, especially in certain parts of the state. Really tough weather, tornado warnings all over. So when it's Memorial Day, you don't know what to expect really in terms of